Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Interviewing the Legends. I'm your host, Ray Shasho. Blues rock superstar Joe Bonamassa is one of the most celebrated performing musicians of today. Only in his mind, in his mid 40s, Bonamassa has become a living legend with an astounding multi genre catalog. He has released more than 40 albums, including studio and live recordings, as well as collaborative albums with his adventurous side projects, Black Country Communing and Rock Candy Funk Party. A prolific writer who is always on the hunt to expand his eclectic musical horizons, Bonamassa has a limitless work ethic, whether it's in the studio, on the road, or working with other artists to spur new music. Joe Bonamassa has recently released Blues Deluxe Volume 2, his new studio album, via his own J&R Adventures. In celebration of his landmark release, which marks 20 years since his first independent album, Bonamassa has unveiled the project's latest single, Is It Safe to Go Home? Following an extensive summer run that included his debut appearance at the Hollywood Bowl, which was recorded for his next live concert film, the hardest working bluesman in show business began his U.S. fall tour on October 23rd at the Cannon Center in Memphis, Tennessee, before crisscrossing the country and capping the year at the guitar-shaped Hard Rock Live in Hollywood, Florida on December 2nd. He'll start his U.S. spring tour for 2024 on February 19th in Louisville, Kentucky. Please welcome living legend, guitarist, singer, and songwriter Joe Bonamassa to Interviewing the Legends. Hello, Joe.
How's it going, man?
Doing good, man. You know, you got a great baseball name. Now up, the second baseman, number 5, Joe Bonamassa.
Yeah, I have no athletic ability whatsoever, so luckily I can play guitar.
And very well, may I say.
Thank you.
Before we get into the new album, which I love, I gave it 5 stars. It's an incredible album. I want to mention you got some Florida dates coming up. I'm in Sarasota, actually. So you're coming to Van Wezel, the Van Wezel Performing Arts Center, November 30th. Actually, I was just there. I saw Captain Kirk, William Shatner. He did a screening of Wrath of Khan recently, and came out and did a thing afterwards, which was pretty cool. But December 1st, you'll be at the Hertz Arena at Estero, Florida, which is part of Coral and Cape Coral and Fort Myers in Florida. December 2nd in Hollywood, Florida, of course, at the Hard Rock. You'll be in Pensacola on March 7th next year, March 15th at the Dr. Phillips Center in Orlando, and then at the new Sound Pavilion Complex, brand new in Clearwater, Florida, on March 16th of the year next year. So you got a lot of Florida dates, and we're very grateful for that. Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, Florida's always been nice to me over the years. We've done a lot of great shows there, and I'm looking forward to it.
Well, we would like you to move here as well.
Oh, yeah, I like your taxes.
Yeah, how about that? No state tax. That's awesome. Before I get to the new album, I'm originally from DC. I've lived here for 20 years now, but our big heroes in DC, of course, were Danny Gatton and Roy Buchanan. What was it like working with Danny? I know he was a mentor of yours.
He was great. I mean, I met him when I was 12 years old, and I knew him till I was about 16. And he was the greatest, like, overall guitar player I've ever met in my entire life. He knew all the styles. He had everything down. He knew jazz, he knew rock, he knew blues, he knew Americana stuff, and and his versatility was something that just always impressed me immensely.
I know Jeff Beck was a big fan as well.
Yeah, everybody was. I mean, when you talk about Roy Buchanan and Danny, everyone from Jeff Beck to Jerry Garcia and would sing both of those guys' praises, and it was really interesting because DC had a great music scene. Jimmy Thackeray, the Nighthawks,
exactly.
All this stuff that would come out of Rhode Island, and they would travel down I-95, get through, Baltimore, DC. Bobby Parker was outside of Baltimore in the DC area. So, good music was easy to achieve. I mean, you could see these guys playing around, and I mean, it was a real treasure trove.
I talked to the guys from Hot Tuna too, of course. They were from DC.
Yeah.
And they were friends of Danny as well. Danny lived not too far from me. I lived in Southern Maryland, in the Charles County area, and he was pretty close to me as well. Big hero in DC, man.
Yeah, he's a big hero. I mean, everywhere. I mean, arguably he's more famous now than he was when he was alive.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it kind of works like that for some people. It was unfortunate for him.
Right. One thing you said I disagree with is that you thought you got much better as a guitar player, but you considered yourself just to be a legit singer. I disagree, man. You're a great singer. You're very soulful. You kind of remind me of cross between Kim Wilson and John Mayo.
Okay, I'll take that. I love Kim Wilson and John. John's about to turn 90 years old.
I know. Isn't that something?
Well, it's something that he's not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Turned 90, and so it's. I mean, how much longer do you want to wait? Get a living legend like that in, because I mean, his records in the mid 60s changed the game for everyone.
Exactly. Yeah, and he brought the British. The British blues was him. I mean, he brought all the great blues guys to the forefront again.
Well, after they were guitar player. He couldn't keep guitar player because Clapton would come in, then he'd go do something else, and then Peter Green would come in. He'd go to Mick Taylor. He's like he had the hell of a time keeping a guitar player.
Right.
But the records that he made with those three guys, stand the test of time and really introduced a lot of suburban white kids to the blues, because we didn't know what that was. I mean,
exactly.
My journey to the blues went through London before it went to Chicago or Mississippi. And, John was instrumental and pivotal in that movement, getting that stuff started. And, the British blues boom, you can lay solely at the doorstep of Alexis Corner and Bond organization and, John Mayo and the Blues Breakers. This predates the Jeff Beck group. This predates
that's right.
the formation of Led Zeppelin. I mean, they were around the same time as the Yardbirds, but the Yardbirds were more of a pop act until they became the New Yardbirds and ultimately, Led Zeppelin.
I was fortunate to spend some time with John Mayo. He celebrated his 80th birthday here in Sarasota, and I covered the show. Larry McRae was also on that bill, and that's how I got to meet Larry McRae as well. He's a great guy. Love Larry.
A great singer, a great player.
But John set up his own equipment. He stood outside signing autographs and signing his new CD. I mean, very humble guy,
Very humble guy. And it was always like that, But he'd do these crazy tours where he'd do 25 in a row, They'd be like, well, we're out here for 26 days. And we're going to do 25 shows. And it's like, Walter Trout did the same thing, but, Walter learned that from John, thing where it's, Walter was in John's band in the 80s. And, I couldn't do 25 in a row at 25 years old, let alone 80 years old. He's got so much energy, and he's just a really good guy. I played on some of John's records, and I cherish every moment I get to spend with him, because he's a living legend. John Mayo.
He is. It's so cool. I was backstage with him. I was in his dressing room, actually, getting his playlist. And I saw the magic guitar, the turquoise, really cool guitar that he always plays back there. And, he's a great keyboard player, too. A lot of people forget that. And an excellent singer,
Well, he played organ on those, like the Hard Road and the Beano album. I mean, that's him on the Hammond. And, it was him on some of the guitar stuff. But he knew that he was a front guy, singer, versus a soloist. He needed a soloist to be full.
Yeah, I've had him on the show several times, and I'm very, very fortunate for that. And yes, he should be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. He should have been in there a long time ago,
Should
man.
have been there 30 years ago. Yeah.
Exactly. It's crazy. I don't agree with that system anyway. A lot of people
I've been
don't.
advocating for him for at least 15 years
Right.
to anybody who'll listen over there, and
Mhm.
it's just you know, a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame without John Mayall in it is incomplete. Is
Exactly.
in
I heard
my
it had something to do with the record label, who gets in, who gets out,
no, it's a little more complicated than that.
Is it a lot of
Yeah,
politics?
it's a little more
Probably.
complicated than that.
So the inside scoop.
Right.
Well, the album is great. Okay, I love it, man.
Thanks.
It's great, and you got
Thanks.
two original tracks on there.
Mhm.
You got "Hope You Realize It," "Goodbye
Mhm.
Again," and "Is It Safe to Go Home?"
Yeah.
Great tunes, really good
Thanks.
tracks. Yeah. I'm going to go over a couple of tracks. 24-Hour Blues, originally performed by the Bobby Blue Band. I love your selection too of the album.
Well, we tried to stay off the well-worn deer trails of the blues,
right.
There's a lot, a lot of these songs have been covered a lot of times.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
you want to try to, Dun Guy Over for an example, and Lazy Poker Blues, not really a well covered song, which is great because you can kind of do anything you want to it. And yeah, we tried, like, I mean, the Dreamer album from Bobby Bland is one of his greatest, if not his greatest. I mean, songs. I mean, it's Larry Carlton playing on that stuff, and so we covered Dreamer with Mark Broussard the year before
Right.
we made Blues Deluxe Volume 2. Mark just nailed it, killed it, and so he came in, and then I was like, man, 24-Hour Blues we could cover. So I just threw it in a pile of ideas that Josh Smith and I kind of like woodshedded back and forth about, like, what are we going to do with this album? And that was one of the ones that appeared on both of our lists, and it's really good. I mean, we play it live every night, and it's cool.
Mm-hmm. Like you said, there's a lot of tunes on this album that you don't get to hear. I mean, Guitar Slim.
You go back and listen to the original, but I mean, these are our interpretations of these songs.
Well, it's great that we get to hear them again, performed by you, of course.
Well, I mean, something to do at the 20th anniversary of Blues Deluxe first album, and I just thought it was a good idea. To revisit an entire blues album again, after 20 years, because I mean, we make different kinds of records. I mean, some of them have no blues on them, some of them have a lot of blues, some of it's kind of hit or miss. This one it is a blues album. It's a traditional blues album.
Guitar Slim, Well I Done Got Over It, another great song, man. I think that was one of my favorites on the album. I want to shout about it was another, Rodney Earl and the Broadcasters, another great track. Winnow, I think, was my very favorite.
Wino?
Pee Wee Creighton.
Yeah, Pee Wee Creighton, a very underrated guy from L.A. Actually, he was hanging in L.A. making those records, and he came in after T-Bone Walker and had a real moment, probably like 1956 through like 1963, and just a great songs, and he had some just great, he had a killer Fiesta Red Strat, which is still at the Blues Museum in Memphis. So it's one of those things I've been meaning to get over there to look at that, because it's just, as a guitar, is rare, but then the fact that it was his.
The lyrics on this album is so cool. I've got to get an office in the White House. All the laws are made by me. Say I'm a great politician and I make all the laws. I got a seat in Congress right next to Santa Claus. I mean, I love those lyrics.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty wild.
Yeah. Not only are you a great player, but you're basically a musicologist as well. You really know your stuff.
Well, I'm not as good as I should, and not as good as most of the people in my band. They're really, they do the deep dives, but I know enough to get in trouble, just like anything else in life. I know enough just to get in trouble.
Hope you realize it. That's a great tune, man, that you wrote. It's very R&B. It's R&B, soul, and funky all at the same time.
Well, it's very
You know?
Tower of Power.
Yeah, very Tower of Power. Exactly right. Yeah.
I mean, we were talking about like the approach of the song, and I was like, well, if we're gonna go there, we might as well just go all the way.
Mm-hmm. Have you thought about doing like an R&B album, all R&B tracks, or no? No,
No,
no.
no, I'm at a stage in my career where I'm just gonna do whatever I want. I mean, like I could do every, and I make a certain kind of solo record. I make a certain kind of original record. I make a certain kind of blues record. And I'm comfortable with that. It's like I don't think the world needs to hear my terrible Sam Cooke impression, or it's like, I mean, there's certain things you just want to stay in your wheelhouse and embrace that and work on that and hopefully get it to the point where you're identified as okay, this is a Joe Bonamassa type.
I think you've already established that.
Probably. I'm just unaware of it,
What would you say about Jeff Beck's style, though? I mean, would you say he's a little bit eclectic? Because he gets into funky stuff, and then he gets into some laid back tunes. And
I think he's the best rock guitar player of all time.
Yeah, I agree.
There's a discussion between Eddie Van Halen and Jeff Beck, and it's always those two or Jimi Hendrix.
Right.
Jimmy didn't have the length of career. He died,
I know,
tragically short. But was a complete game changer. But also cited Jeff Beck as one of his influences. And so, I mean, like all the greats say, oh, it's the best guy is Jeff Beck. And and that's Eddie included, and Clapton, and and David Gilmour always sang his praises, and he would always reinvent himself to something that was different every decade. Be like, wow, I wish I thought of that.
Yeah, he played without a pick, also, right?
He was a hybrid player.
Yeah,
from some of his career, he can't play scatterbrain without a pick.
Right. He's an amazing player. I know he's still in my heart. He's still around.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Blow by Blow was my favorite album, I think, of all times. And talking about the blues and everything, I got to mention I got to interview William Bell. William Bell, Born Under a Bad Sign. He wrote that tune, man. And of course, Albert King made it famous. And Booker T was also a composer on that song, but that was very honored to have William Bell on the show as well.
Well, I mean, like those Albert tunes are great,
Yeah,
and that's the one thing about the blues that I think needs to be readdressed time and time again over the years is just to concentrate on trying to write great new blues songs,
right?
Because there hasn't been a Born Under a Bad Sign in a long time.
Nope.
But it seemed like in the 60s and even into the 70s, they were churning out classics, day after day.
Isn't it amazing how that song stood the test of time for all these years, and
if it wasn't for Bad Luck, I'd have no luck at all. If that ain't the blues.
Yeah.
Kind of says it all,
Exactly, man. I want to mention something about Jeff Beck again. My favorite song by Jeff Beck has always been Diamond Dust. I mean, I think they're going to play that song at my funeral. I mean it. Right. That'll take me right to heaven. But and of course, Causeway and His Lovers was another big tune. It was Stevie Wonder tune, and Sarita Wright originally, I think, sung that back in 1974. Did you play that tune at some point?
I played it at Crossroads.
At Crossroads, yeah. I think I remember you playing that. Yeah. That's a great song.
It is a great song, and it was a gift to Jeff from Stevie Wonder.
Yeah,
because of what happened with Superstition.
Right,
was originally something that Stevie wrote for Jeff Beck, and they did a version of it on Beck, Bogert, and a piece.
Right,
and I think Barry Gordy heard Stevie's demo and said, "No, like we're going to put it out as a single," and Stevie had the hit.
Exactly.
First
big hit.
and it delayed, or it kind of derailed that BBA record. And it looked like they were covering Stevie, which was the other way around.
Right.
And I think Stevie felt bad and then gave him that other song, which is, equally as beautiful,
Mhm.
and just and nobody can touch Jeff versions. It's impossible.
No. Oh, impossible. You and Jeff shared a wonderful singer who have had on my show, and I love her to death, is Beth Hart.
Mm-hmm.
You and Beth were very good together, by the way. I want
We
to
were very
mention
good
that.
together for 5 years. It was a fun project that we did.
Exactly. You guys were great together. And how many albums did you put out with Beth? Was it
three studio, one live? So it was 4.
Wow. Huh. I want to talk about I want to finish this album first of all before I move on.
Well, speaking of moving,
Oh, do you?
I got a gig, man.
Yeah. Oh, you got a gig coming up. What time?
You don't think he's like now?
You're backstage, right? Okay, real quick. I just want to mention Heavenly Cream. I had Malcolm on the show. You did a wonderful job on that album. Love the album. I gave that album 5 stars.
It's something.
Yeah, you did a great job, man.
It's a concept.
Yeah, but you did good. You said, I believe you sang Crossroads. No, you sang Deserted Cities.
Yeah.
And you did what was the other one you did?
I want to say
Deserted Cities. Yeah, I think you did Crossroads, didn't you?
Yeah, it was something like that.
Yeah. And I just want to mention you did a collaboration with Dave Mason as well.
Mm-hmm.
You did Dear Mr. Fantasy. Beautiful track. You guys did a wonderful track together.
I was very, very grateful that Dave asked me to do it. So
it was excellent. Joe, thank you for being on the show. I know you got a gig, man. You're going to knock them dead like you always do. I want to say very special thanks to John Bleacher of Prospect PR for arranging this interview with Joe. Purchase Blues Deluxe Volume 2 with the epic track Is It Safe to Go Home by Joe Bonamassa. And hey, it's out. Is it out now or is it I think it is out now, isn't it?
It's been out for like a month and a half. Yeah.
About a month and a half now. Okay. And also you can purchase the Blues Deluxe Volume 2 Collector's Edition on blue vinyl. And that's also available. And you're available to visit Joe Bonamassa on your official website, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and all the streaming sites.
There you go.
Go see Joe Bonamassa on tour. He's incredible. And I will be there in Sarasota to see you. Thank you, Joe.
Good deal, Ray. I appreciate it, man.
Have a great show, man.
All right. I'll speak to you soon.
Okay. Take care.
Right.
Bye.
Bye.